So for the second case of this week, we are going to Alaska. As far as I know, I've not covered a case out of Alaska yet. I know I definitely covered at least one out of Hawaii. So I guess we're going to the other non-attached state to the U.S. So we're going to Alaska. This case has pretty much gotten like a lot of coverage. Everybody that is involved has not yet been sentenced. So I'm going to give what is publicly has been revealed at the time of this video being up. And so with that being said, pretty much going to quit my rambling, give what is publicly known, and let's go and get started. So we're actually going to start our story with Cynthia. Cynthia Hoffman was born on October 8th, 1999, and had 6 siblings. It is said that she had a mental development disorder, which would come into play later. She apparently had to switch high schools in order to be able to even graduate. She first had started working at restaurants, you know, how most people start off, but it would eventually start working with her father, Timothy. So then another female comes into play. We have Denali Dakota Sky Brehmer. We don't have a date of birth on her, but her and Cynthia were apparently friends. And then apparently so Denali and a sister, because apparently she has a sister, would get taken away from their mother after allegations of abuse. And then the two of them would get adopted by a family friend. So then one fateful day, Denali would get messages from this guy who's claiming to go under the name Tyler and was claiming that he was a millionaire in Kansas. When in reality, he was actually just some regular old 20-year-old guy named Darren. Don't have a date of birth on him either, but he's very important. And he's from New Salisbury, Indiana. In fact, this guy apparently actually had an investigation on him done by the FBI themselves back in 2018 for apparently child pornography, but those charges were eventually dropped. And so another thing that came out about Darren, who's going to name Tyler, after the incident is that apparently he asked women that he knew that had kids. He would ask basically to see what the kids looked like while diapers were being changed. So basically trying to see like their genitals, which I said is very illegal. And I can imagine the mothers did report it, but he somehow didn't go to jail for this. And so he would basically tell Denali that, look, because remember he's pretending to be a millionaire. He's like, look, I'll give you $9 million if you rape and kill somebody and capture it on video. So then Denali sends pictures of her friend, Cynthia, and then Darren, pretending to be Tyler, basically says, yep, she's a good enough target. Then Denali would hire this guy named Caden McIntosh, who was then 16 and homeless. And so she pretty much promised him a bunch of money if he decided to help. And obviously, if he were to get said money, I assume he would obviously no longer be homeless, because that's obviously not the ideal situation. So then she gets this other guy named Caleb Leyland involved. He's 19. She said, look, I'll give you $500,000 if we just simply use your car, because we also got to use their car for what we're about to do. And so apparently there were some other two people that were involved in this, but they apparently were too young to have their names leaked. And so how much they were involved and what their names are obviously aren't released to the public. And what their sentences are probably won't be released to the public either. If anything, they'll probably get sentenced to juvenile court, because they haven't, from what it looks like, they haven't even been sentenced yet. So spoiler on that. So somehow on the fateful day of June 2nd, 2019, Denali convinces Cynthia to basically go hiking, because apparently this is the murder plot. They're not actually going to go hiking. So then Denali somehow convinces Cynthia basically like, hey, we're going to tie you up and like take pictures and it'll be fun. So then Cynthia basically, remember like I said, she has a mental developmental disorder. So then she is obviously very, sadly very trusting of Denali. So then she agrees basically to be tied up. Yeah, so she pretty much then was gagged with like tape over her mouth. And so then Caleb apparently pulls out a gun, and then Cynthia realizes it's not a game. And then she basically tells them like, look, I'll basically tell the police that I was kidnapped, even though she went willingly, and that she was raped. Now exactly was she assaulted? We don't. That wasn't publicly released. But remember, Darren, Tyler, same person essentially. He basically did want somebody to be raped and murdered. So and Caden shoots Cynthia in the back of the head. Obviously at that point, she is somehow still alive apparently. So then he drags her body to the river that they were at, and then puts her in there. So they then take her purse and the gun that was just used for the murder, and then they go and burn it to obviously dispose of evidence. Denali pretty much gets Cynthia's phone, basically messaging her dad, Cynthia's dad, Timothy, basically saying like, hey, I'm going to be home soon, even though pretty much Cynthia's pretty much believed to have already been dead by that point. So then, of course, Cynthia ain't coming home. And obviously, like I said, she has developmental disorder. So obviously, she's a pretty vulnerable person. So Timothy, understandably like any parent, even though she's an adult, she still has this condition. I'm worried about her. This is not like her. So, of course, he gets the police. They said you got to wait 24 hours, I guess, because she's an adult. So then he creates his own search party, because I'm not going to wait for the police. And then nothing comes up. 12 hours after he originally calls them, he calls them again. And then he tells them, okay, y'all need to be looking at who she was last seen with. So then somehow Denali's name gets brought in it. So I guess Cynthia had mentioned, oh, I'm going to go hang out with Denali on the day she was murdered. And then Denali is like, oh, well, me, Caden, and Caleb all had smoked weed that day. So we couldn't have been us. So then after killing Cynthia, Darren apparently wanted more content. So Denali went and violated a 8 and 15-year-old girl and recorded that for Darren. And then both of them would then proceed to delete their messages, assuming that would be just permanently deleting them. And there's no way you could trace that back. And then luckily police were able to get a subpoena for both for those records for Verizon. Denali apparently is brought in, but apparently I guess like one or both of the girls that she had violated essentially knew her like by name. So of course obviously they go to the police, which I'm glad they did because now they have Denali in the station to question her. And so then they apparently go through her phone and they find the video of Cynthia's murder on the phone. So then she claims that Caden did bring out the gun, but he originally just smacked Cynthia, not shot her. And Cynthia would eventually be found 2 days later. I guess when it was like 2 days after the actual murder, so on the 4th. And then in February of 2013, Denali had pled guilty. Darren, by this point, had apparently been extradited to Alaska on $1 million bail in order to face charges. Because, he's living in Indiana. The crime technically happened in Alaska. And technically, had you not offered this little $9 million, this girl would not be dead right now. So you're going to face charges too. So Denali and Darren have already both been sentenced. They've been sentenced to both 99 years. So they're not getting out until they die. And then Darren, on top of that, has an extra 30 years added for the child pornography. Caleb apparently is supposed to have sentencing in June 2024. So, which was last month. And I have not seen anything about that. So I guess I'll make an update, like community post when he does get sentenced. Because I haven't seen anything about that yet. And then Caden hasn't even went to trial yet. So, and like I said, the other two that are too young to apparently be named, they haven't went to trial yet either. So we'll see how those go. But at least the mastermind and the one who kind of organized the whole killing, the two of them, they're at least staying in jail for the rest of their lives until they die. So with that being said, yeah, that is the case of the Alaska catfish murder. So like I said, if anybody knew of the case, anybody knew of the victim or killers, definitely let me know down below. And so with that being said, I cover fail females 3 times a week. Subscribe for more fail females. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.